Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Hello, Abuja. Hello, everyone listening to us from wherever you're listening to this podcast from. This is the agribusiness segment of the Money Radio here on the Leadership Podcast News paper, coming to you straight from Abuja, Nigeria. And today is another exciting day where we have to talk about agriculture. My name is Adadu Ote. Of course, if you're tired of hearing agriculture, food and agriculture, of course, you have to listen to us again and again and again, because this is one of the things that keep you alive. And this is one of the things that keep you staying alive and healthy, doing other things. So, of course, you know that agri business is the main segment of our life in Nigeria, in the world, globally, as humanity, as for entire humanity. So today we're going to be talking about other things that affect agriculture. And of course, today I'm not alone in the studio. Of course, I'm here with some big whips in the industry, people who are the timber and caliber of the industry. Of course, the one and only, I'm talking about Mr. Ahmed Reda, who is the head of Technical Africa as a whole, regional head from the Jubilee Agrotech. Mr. Ahmed, good afternoon. Welcome to the agribusiness segment of the Money Radio.
Good afternoon, Mr. Adadu. Thank you for the invitation, and we are delighted to be at the Leadership Studio here today.
Yeah, and of course, we are not here alone. He's also here with one of his major deputy, one able Mr. Marcus Zagi. Marcus Zagi, good to have you in the studio.
Good afternoon.
I think Marcus has been here for one. You've been here once, right?
Yeah.
Okay, of course. Mr. Ahmed is your first time. Do we need to drum some big bells for him for coming to the studio? But it's good to have you today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, of course, we'll go straight into our topic of discussion. Today, we're looking at post-harvest losses. I know that you have been doing a whole lot of activity supporting farmers from East Africa to North Africa, in the whole of the African region. How is your assessment of post-harvest losses generally?
Right. First of all, we want to give small introduction about Jubilee Agrotech and our activities. Jubilee Agrotech is one of the leaders in the agrochemical markets in Africa. So we are doing our best to get the best product inputs for the farmers. We are trying to supply them with agri inputs. On the other hand, we are trying to provide the technical support and solution for the farmers. By this way, we make sure that they are doing their best to achieve food security and to maximize the production.
So supply and technical support. So in other words, you guys are not just, I'm happy that it's not about you people just selling product to farmers. You are having that support for farmers, because which is what we have mostly here in Nigeria, where people just sell a product to people, and then sometimes the farmers don't even know how to use them. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, this is a very important point. We believe that there is some gap between the farmers and the agro dealers or agrochemical company. So we are trying to do our best to reduce this gap and make a direct contact and dynamic approach to the farmers. So we can advise them technically. We can give them the products. After that, when we give them the technical support service, we make sure that they are using it properly. By this way, they can get their targeted harvest, get the good yield, good quality products, good quality fruits. And from this point, we believe that we can encourage more farmers to get profit, to go more for farming. And this will be better for everyone in the value chain, not only the agrochemical company, even the agro dealers and the farmers as well.
So how is your assessment of post-harvest losses generally, comparing Nigeria and other, or within the African region generally? Because there's so much loss that happens after planting and everything is done and all the writing is been done. What happened after the harvest? How can farmers prevent post-harvest losses?
Actually, what you're talking about is very important, because if we're looking at agriculture, it's integrated program. It's a longer process from buying the inputs, planting, applying herbicide, insecticide, then you get your harvest, then you start to preserve your harvest. For example, if you don't want to sell it now, you want to dry it and sell it later, so you can get more profit in the off season. Most of our farmers are doing so. It's a smart way to get more profit. But here, as you said, there is some challenge affecting them. Post-harvest practices. We want to ask if our farmers are doing it properly or not. If you look at this point, you see that some farmers have the knowledge and some they have lack of knowledge about preserving their grain, for example. Now you see that the farmer, he is spending a lot of money to buy the inputs. He did a lot of efforts. He's doing well. he get good yield. Now he doesn't know how to preserve them. So when you put it in your warehouse, you see that the weevils and the borers start to come and feed on them. We are not planting to feed the insect, we want to feed ourselves.
Exactly.
So what we are trying to do, we are trying to teach them what's the good practices after or post-harvest process. So we are trying to get for them some chemicals which is friendly for them and friendly for the consumer.
So in other words, there are chemicals that are not friendly.
Yeah, sure.
For
There is a
post-harvest handling.
lot of chemicals in the market which is not friendly, and we are trying to teach the farmer to avoid this chemical and to go for the new generation. The old chemical, if you check at the market, you see that we have some products for grain preservation, like these tablets of ammonium phosphate. Most of our farmers, you know it, they start to put 1 or 2 tablets inside. This one can release some gas to kill the insect. Okay, perfect. By this way, you are preventing it. But the other negative point or aspect, after this one will turn into powder and it will contaminate with the grain. So if someone is consuming it, it may harm him. So we are trying to teach them to avoid this way and go for the new way. Jubaili Agrotech has got a new product which is more friendly for the farmers, just to preserve the grains, just to do dusting in the warehouse.
So
at the
are
wall.
these chemical also chemicals that some months back we've heard about cases where the EU market is rejecting Nigerian
Yes.
beans and other things. Some of these products are things that also, because of course that's also part of the post-harvest losses that farmers are experiencing in the industry.
So what you are talking about is 2 types of losses. The first one, that I cannot sell to the local market. Secondly, I cannot export. I cannot export because this chemical is not approved by any other country to export it. Yeah, and for me, I believe that the chemical which I cannot use for exporting, I cannot use for local market, because here we have to prevent our health.
Exactly.
We don't just need money, we need to prevent the health of Nigerian people and farmers. So what I believe that we have to try to ban all this chemical which harming the Nigerian consumer or the Nigerian market, which stop us from exporting, and let our farmers use the new chemical which is very friendly. When you use a friendly chemical, you cut the cost because it comes in an affordable price. You can consume it very safe. You can export in case you want to export. But for me, I don't like to talk about exporting because there is shortage of food.
There is hunger shortage.
So I cannot tell you that we need to
so-
export and we need a lot to do a lot of things like this. Let us achieve food security, then we talk about exporting.
Fantastic. So, Mr. Zagi, I know you are part of the agronomical team. You are an agronomist by training. What are these crops that can be impacted by, that may experience, farmers can experience losses after harvest? Crops, some major crops at the moment that they need to prevent losses on at the moment.
There are a lot of crops that farmers need to prevent against losses, specifically from insects that attack crops after harvesting. Farmers do well to use agrochemicals from pre-planting to post-emergence. After spending a lot of money, you harvest your crops and bring it to the warehouse, and it could either be affected by insects, weevils, or rodents. So you see, for example, let's say maize or rice. These are major crops, stable crops that farmers do produce here in the country.
And I see granite is on the high. They're almost done with harvesting of granules at the moment.
Yeah. So some of the farmers, the lack of knowledge actually on how to preserve their crops after they have harvested. They don't even, some farmers don't even know that there are chemicals you can use, user-friendly chemicals that you can use to prevent your crops against rodents in the warehouses. So you store up your grains or your produce, and when you, after 1 or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you open your well, you see that rats have already eaten everything. But there are user-friendly chemicals that you can use as bait for rats. But most farmers don't know. That is why at Jubaili Agrotech, we try to teach the farmers. They have accepted the good agronomical practices from use of agrochemicals now to post-harvest. When you pass by villages, you see farmers hanging their milk crops on the sticks outside while it is still raining. So definitely after 2-3 rainfall, the grain will start germinating again on the sticks. So this one is also post-harvest losses. So farmers need to understand that we have a chemical, user-friendly chemical, that they can use to preserve their crops from being damaged by rodents or weevils in the warehouses.
Fantastic. So we'll go on a quick short break, and then when we return, we'll continue with the conversation. And then, of course, you can send in your question, your answer, so that the guests in the studio can also respond to some of your questions while we make progress in this conversation. We'll go on a short break, and then when we return, we'll continue on this discussion, preventing post-harvest losses in Nigeria and indeed across Africa. Thank you.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Yeah, so welcome back to the agribusiness segment of the Money Radio, here coming to you from the Leadership Podcast Studio for God and Country. So we're having this conversation, of course, about preventing post-harvest losses as it relates to crops in Nigeria. We will return back to you, Mr. Ahmed Reda. You talked about earlier about farmers not knowing what to do, and of course, Mr. Marcos also emphasized on that a reality. Some people will say, "Oh, we've been doing this for many years. Our forefathers have been preventing or preserving crops or preventing losses." Should they rely on the old practice to prevent losses in the post-harvest losses in their crops?
It's not necessary to get used on one chemical and be using it all the time, even if you have seen ancestors they are doing so. You understand? Sometimes it's not the best agronomy
Some
practice.
people tell you, my father did it, my grandfather did it, my great-grand. We have to.
Yeah, now we can see a lot of diseases which is unknown and we don't know the reason. I believe that some of these diseases caused by the unknown agrochemical in the market, which is harmful. So our main role now,
and which could even be from the seed itself.
Yes, from GMO seeds or from unknown chemical or buying from a
Other
company
sources.
which doesn't have good reputation in the market. So we are always advising our farmer to go to Jubaili Agrotech office. We have 88 branches in the country. You can go and seek advice from the technical officer. He can direct you to the best.
And it's a free
agronomy.
service? Is
Yeah,
not
sure.
like
We don't charge farmers for any service like this. So the farmer can go to any sales point of Jubaili and get the service free of a charge and get the proper advice. And our technical officer can direct them to the best chemical, which can achieve for them the good agronomy practices.
So it's relying on new segment or new information in the market is key to prevent these losses, not just them insisting on inherited knowledge or method of
storage.
Storage or prevention of these losses that we're talking about.
Exactly.
So it's because it's easy for people or for us in the studio to talk about this, but for some people, the knowledge may not have been shared. There are people who may not even experience that knowledge being shared to them, but they just heard that their friend is doing it that way and they stick to it. What is the best way to prevent post-harvest losses, especially as it relates to crops? Let's say, for instance, for granules. and the maize that is actually actively being harvested at the moment, how can we prevent losses in, even if it's just these two crops at least?
Yeah, you see, at Jubeli, we have a new active ingredient which is very, very user friendly. This one, compared to the old generation chemical where you have to put it in a bag, 3 tablets in a bag. But even at that, farmers don't know that you don't put it to have don't make the chemical to have a direct contact with the grains. But some farmers make it to have direct contact with the grain, and after storing it for a few days, they need money for school fees, they need money for medical attention for their children, whatever. They sell it, they take it to the market, and people will eat that, consume those chemicals, and at the end of the day, it will not affect their health. Now, instead of you to sell those grains and make more money to feed your family, well, you are selling those grains and taking yourself to the hospital for treatment. So you see, it causes problem. But this time around, we have actually a new active ingredient which you use for just dusting. Stuff which is they call it stuff. This one is for dusting. You dust it around the warehouse and on the bags as well.
So
And
the
your
chemical do not need to make contact
with the grains in the warehouse.
grain directly.
Directly.
As at the old practice where you throw these chemicals directly.
Even at the old practice, they are advised to put it in a rack first before putting it in the
But
grain.
they want it direct.
They want to do it direct. No, if you put it in
Trust
a
my
rack,
people.
then you know the chemical will not be effective.
They want you to go deeper.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. So it's important. We're actually having this a laugh on this, but really, sometimes when you interact with major local farmers in Nigeria, or even some industrial farmers who may even have contacts, who have consultants who are working for them on their facility, you realize that even some of the so-called consultants or people who should be knowledgeable are not even aware that certain things should be in place. Is it a function that we are not teaching this thing very well in our schools, or the extension service is not doing much for, or is not enough, or because of the large population, or is it because of even ASU strike?
We believe that there is reason for this lack of knowledge. The extension work in the country is not enough. We cannot accuse someone because of that, but the country is very big. We have a lot of villages. The private sector alone or the government cannot do all the work. So I believe that always we are appealing the private sector, governmental association, NGOs to put their hand together and to use technology to reach the maximum number of farmers. Because if we are doing this work, we are doing like theoretical and the practical training face-to-face with the farmers, we cannot reach all people. But we are trying to use mobile application now. We are trying to use SMS. We are trying to use this technology
to reach out to
the
more
maximum
farmers.
number of farmers. In case a farmer cannot read or write in English, for example, we are trying to reach him by some animation video broadcasted by the TV. Is easy way to understand it. So we are trying to talk to the farmers and reach them at different levels. To make sure that we are able to deliver the message properly and everyone is practicing agronomy in good way.
So I bring it to another point. Now the weather is a bit wet than usual this year, and NIMET is still saying that we still expect rainfall even in this season. Besides drying some of these grains, what other ways can we dry our grains and crops at this moment? In fact, you remember the okra we're talking about. Okra also has another level of post-harvest losses. Their okra when they are due. And I was making an announcement and telling people, I had to go on social media to announce that, hey, if you know your okra is planted around my farm area, I may get people around who will harvest it for free and we can donate it to community or people who need this okra badly. So there are some of these crops that somehow the sun is not allowing them to cut maybe and dry or to harvest and dry. What other way can they, for instance, protect crop from this heavy rain that is coming even after this harvest that is already currently going on?
Actually, there is machines, but as we said before, we don't have the proper machinery in the country yet. But there is some machines overseas. If we can dry, we can dry it indoors. There is no need to use the sun the old ways. But the problem is that not all the farmers can afford it for now. So I think the good way is to have like one machine at each local government, and all the farmers will be. It will be like aggregation center for everyone. Let's say that this village is planting okra. So we can invite everyone to dry his okra here, and the government has to play a role in this to import such a machine and help the farmers to dry their whether it's grain or vegetables.
Wow. But however, can this post-harvest losses if we reduce this post-harvest loss in the farm at the moment, even happening from the farm or even at the market where they have to move to the market, can we leverage on a lesser? Can we strengthen? Can we prevent these losses for a greater output? Looking at this farming season at the moment,
we can prevent this post-harvest loss to some extent by starting from using a very, very good seed.
Good seed,
yes, not grains.
Okay, not grains.
Good seed. Yeah, grains are the normal one.
For most of them, now that will be next year anyway. but you know my stance on the seeds, because Mr. Marcos on the seed he mentioned, there are crops that he mentioned that, to my surprise, I got to know through Mr. Marcos that they even have seeds, for instance, for okra.
Yes.
You know, and it's really amazing. Yes, so I'm listening.
So for the vegetables, you know, for tomato farmers, for example, after production, and they have to transport it to like the far distance to Lagos, to Port Harcourt for sale. And if they are using a truck, and after 2-3 days on the road, the truck got spoiled, you know, definitely the tomatoes will start.
So if the seed is not
from the
right,
seed resistant, from the good resistant seed and the seed that have good shelf life after harvesting, you know that this tomato you can harvest, you can spend 1 week on the road, 10 days before it reaches Lagos, and
it will go there in good condition.
In very good condition, very good condition. So, but farmers only after production, they allow some of the fruits to overripe and they press it, and next planting season you see them planting this seed again, which have no these characteristics are not true. It's a very big problem. So farmers need to adopt use of hybrid varieties. Now at the Dubai Laboratory we have a good hybrid varieties that have good shelf life, good bricks, and it can withstand long time without getting rotten.
So the losses even after harvest can be prevented from the first step before planting. So I don't need to. There are certain advantage you will have as a farmer to limit your losses.
Yes.
From after harvest, even before planting.
And see, once you start with good hybrid seed, your production will be doubled, tripled compared to the OP varieties, and you will definitely sell good products in the market.
And then your losses will be minimized. Fantastic. Mr. Ahmed, you seem to have more contribution on that.
Yeah, as Engineer Marcos said, you know, choosing the inputs wisely is a very important factor to reduce post-harvest losses and to maximize the production, because there is big difference between grain and local seeds and OP seeds. So farmers, they have to know, get the knowledge about this. We have to advise our farmers, whenever you want to start planting, seek the extension officer advice on what type of variety you need to plant. Even when we are talking about rice, you need to know what about plant. Are you going to plant swampy rice variety or upland variety? You need to know. Are you, what is the target? Is your target is to silage to feed your animals, or you want a grain? You want to sell it, or you want to turn it into powder in the future to do maize flour, for example. So all these factors you need to consider when you start planting. So choosing the inputs wisely, this will reduce the post-harvest losses. And we estimate the post-harvest losses, which is 10%, our estimation, which is too big.
10%.
Yeah, 10%. If you are looking at the production of Nigeria, 10% is a big figure, it's not small. And we are in need of every fruit. We want to achieve food security. We cannot talk about achieving food security, and we still have this bad agronomy practices. That's it.
So the bad agronomy practice could actually also increase your ratio, your percentage of losses after you are done with your harvest.
Yes.
However, can this harvest be completely eliminated, like 100% to zero, for us to record 0% in production?
We believe that we can achieve that, but it's a matter of time. We have to increase and do a lot of sensitization campaign to the farmer to let them know how can they preserve their grain. Yes. So it will take time, and there is some cost the farmer has to afford. But if you are looking at the cost comparing to the loss, is nothing. Because now, if you want to sell 1 bag of maize, now 1 bag of maize can reach like almost 30,000 naira. If you are
It has actually dropped to about 18.
yeah, let's say that it's less.
Mm.
If you want to preserve it, you will spend like 100 naira, 200 naira. So comparing to the loss you are getting, it's nothing.
Mm.
So if you are looking at cost-wise, you need to use a friendly agrochemical to preserve your maize, and that will maximize your production. I believe that when the farmer is getting good profit, next season everything will reflect positively to his inputs, because next season when he get enough cash to buy the proper inputs, the production will increase. So if you are looking at it, it's a cycle. So when we follow the cycle properly, the production will increase.
Fantastic. Mr. Marcus, who should take responsibility for all these losses you are talking about? Is it the farmer? Is it the government? Is it we in the studio now? Is it the environment which we are producing our crop? What should be responsible? Who should take responsibility to prevent these losses?
It's a shared responsibility. Everyone needs to take responsibility. The government needs to do more. The farmer needs to upgrade from his inherited, I always call it inherited method of farming, the local way of farming.
Old school practice or old school way of producing.
Yes, to good agronomical practice. So responsibility is for all.
Responsibility is for all. Mr. Ahmed, what's your take on that? Who should be responsible?
I agree with Engineer Marcos that everyone is taking responsibility. Government, private sector, NGO, most of the organization playing important role in the agriculture sector. So I believe that a lot of campaigns has to be done, a lot of conference, a lot of awareness, sensitization, radio awareness, and we have to do a lot of things to the farmers to deliver this message to them, to tell them that achieving food security is easy. Just follow the right way to achieve it. So I believe it's not difficult, it's not sophisticated, especially that our farmers are very smart. They can accept the idea easily.
Wow, that's really been a huge learning content, a whole lot learning from two large minds in the industry, big minds in the industry. Of course, you're wondering what we're talking about. We're talking about preventing post-harvest losses in crops as it relates to Nigeria and the African market generally. And of course, in the studio, it's been Mr. Ahmed Reda, who is the head of Africa Technical Services from the Jubali Agrotech team, and then Mr. Marcos Zagi, who is with the Agronomics Department and Technical Services, all from the Jubali Agrotech Limited. Of course, you can send in your questions to the link or below, publish on our channels, and of course, time is already up against us, but however, you can still send in your question and then we can respond to it maybe on the next podcast. We'll find a way to still relate this question and then find a way to answer them and help you go through your agronomical practice or do your prevent losses in crops and in this season. Mr. Ahmed, I will get back to you. What will be your major advice, your advice to farmers in this harvest season that we're in?
Yeah, now we are harvesting our maize, our sorghum, our rice, for example. We need to advise the farmer to make sure that they are drying their crops very well to avoid any fungal infection and bacterial infection after harvesting. This is number one. Number two, you need to seek the advice, whether from our Jubaili technical officers across the countries, they are everywhere.
Free advice.
Yeah, free advice on what chemical you are using. Now we are introducing a new chemical called StoreForce. This chemical, you can use it in a safe way without contamination with the grain. So in case something happened and you want to sell your grain before this period you targeted, there is no any problem because it's very safe, because there is no any direct contamination or contact with the inputs. But if you are looking, with the output. But if you are looking at the old generation, there is direct contact. So I cannot sell it until I have to respect the PHI or pre-harvest interval. I have to wait like 3 months before selling my yield. So what we are trying to tell them, seek the advice. You need to choose your post-harvest chemical properly and wisely.
Wow. So and it looks like, as you're talking about, even before this season, it's looking as if some farmers may be in regret at the moment because they're like, I didn't even choose the right seed. I didn't even choose the right input in the first place. In looking at future planning, what will be, because very soon we'll soon be going into the dry season farming, and some will still need to make certain decisions that will impact on their output again in the next few weeks. Looking at the future, what can we advise an average Nigerian farmer, an average farmer operating within the African space on what they can do to prevent this even from happening?
Well, information is power. And here at Jubilee Agrotech, we are in every state of the country. And the farmer is free to walk into any of our depots to seek for good information, relevant information concerning the farming and the right chemical to use at the appropriate time and what dosage to use. And these services are free. Nobody will charge you for one dime for getting any information. So the farmer is welcome to our depots everywhere in the country, and he will definitely get the relevant information in its next test.
Fantastic. Mr. Ahmed Reda, what's your closing remark to everyone listening to us?
Our closing remarks
And watching us.
is to use the proper chemical and seek the technical advice from our officer, as Engineer Marco said. And we have to be in direct contact with the farmers, whether through our mobile application, our website, our technical support number, on all our products labels. Don't hesitate to call us if you don't know how to use the chemical, so we can give you the free advice. If it's necessary, we'll come to your farm, we'll come to your warehouse to inspect and give you this service free of charge. So we're asking the farmers, don't hesitate to call our technical team in case you have any challenge. We can help you.
Fantastic. So it's been an exciting conversation today, and of course, here is where we draw the curtain on today's conversation. My name is Adado Otse, and with me in the studio, personalities who have been doing justice to the topic today is Mr. Ahmed Reda, who has said a whole lot, and I expect you to share this conversation with as many groups you can. Feel free to share so that we can reach out to as many farmers that we can reach out to. And of course, Mr. Marcus Zagi, who is also the agronomic team, an agronomist who is also on the Jubilee Agrotech team, doing justice to the topic. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Depending on where you're watching this from, we say thank you and do have a wonderful week ahead. And of course, make sure you eat something foodie. In fact, you don't have an option. You must eat food, and agriculture is a major segment of your life. My name is Adad Otse, your Agrotech King, and I say do have a wonderful week. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.